Welcome to Shoshone Adventures Hunt Stories Podcast. Join us as we take you on hunting and fishing expeditions all over the globe with the outfitters who live and work in the wild. This episode is brought to you by Cordia Hunting and Outdoor Apparel. To save 20% site-wide, use promo code Shoshone20.
Hey, welcome everybody back to Shoshone Hunt Stories, where we sit down with our guides, outfitters, clients from around the world to talk about their experiences, their traditions, get to know everybody better, and share some hunt stories. I just wish that I was sitting someplace drinking with my good friend JT Robbins right now, but I'm so happy to have him on the podcast. I've gotten to know JT over the last few years. We've done some hunting together. We've got another hunt planned in the future. JT is all things outfitting: Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Sonora. He's got a lot to talk about, and I cannot thank him enough for taking a few minutes out of his busy schedule. This guy knows busy, and the fact that we can sit down with him for an hour and squeeze in some time with this guy is awesome. JT, thank you so much for taking a few minutes with us, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Man, we've been talking about doing this for a while, and I appreciate it. I've never seen somebody work so hard as this guy does, and if you watch his YouTube videos, if you know him, he just never stops. So the fact that we can sit him down for an hour during his precious time at home, especially getting ready for buffalo hunts and for elk hunts, and of course getting ready for the Sonora season, it's a real privilege, man. We appreciate it so much. How long are you home for right now in this little break you got?
And it kind of varies, like you say, anymore at this point in time, the business is kind of year round. June and half of July is kind of our slow time, regrouping, get everything lined out for the next year. And, this Saturday, we're rolling into our first hunts for 2025, really, or the 2025 or 2026 season. So,
yeah, it is getting cranking.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, real quick. We've got hunters already. I mean, I feel like I'm always posting Instagram photos from Africa because that's just the time of year when everybody's over there. But we roll right into antelope season pretty quick, and then come September, we've got a lot of elk clients out there in the woods. So, but we appreciate it, man. And just real quick, JT, I want to get right back with you. We got a lot of stuff going right now. Newsletters coming out. If you're not on the newsletter, get signed up. There's a lot of last minute deals out there. We just released our first Shoshone seminar series. And JT, what that is we get lots of calls from people that say, I want to hunt moose, I want to hunt caribou, I want to hunt bear. And usually the first thing I ask them, great, you want to go on a moose hunt. We talk about price point. I ask them, well, what species do you want to hunt? They don't even know that there's different species of moose out there. They just want to kill a moose. And so we came up with this idea for like a seminar series, and we just released the first one on moose, and it's on YouTube. Everybody should check it out. If you've ever wanted to hunt moose, it covers the different species, where they are throughout Canada and the lower 48 and Alaska, of course, price points, ammunition, arrow stuff. I mean, we go through all that. So our first seminar series is released. We've got a couple more in our hip pocket that we're ready to release. We've got one on black bear hunting and on caribou that are getting ready to release, which is really cool. A lot of upcoming hunts. Jay and Jonathan just got back from a big Africa trip. More to follow on that. And we've got elk hunts coming up. We're filming antelope in Colorado, mule deer in Sonora. We got a turkey hunt we're ready to release. We got Alberta whitetail. And we've got two very lucky clients going on a once-in-a-lifetime elk hunt with this guy right here, JT, that we're going to be filming down in an undisclosed unit in an undisclosed state. But it is going to really, really kick ass. I can't wait to share everybody with that. That is going to be epic. That's going to be epic. I know you're excited about that, JT, and I want to get into your background a little bit, but elk hunting to you, I know, is your bread and butter. Can you talk a little about how long you've been outfitting elk hunts, and you've kind of wanted to transition away from general elk hunting to concentrating on the big guys? Is that right? And kind of talk about why a little bit and how long you've been guiding elk hunters.
Yep, you kind of hit the hammer on the head there. I guess this is going into the 14th season of full-time guiding elk hunters in the fall. I started out kind of as a one-man show doing some very basic hunts, over-the-counter type tags, lower end permits, just kind of I started at the bottom of the barrel really, and through the years, my dream was always chasing bigger and better, and I had the opportunity to gain permits in new areas and start interacting with clients who were, applying in the draw. And with time, that slowly built. Unit 61 here in Colorado has kind of been home base. It's kind of the unit where it all started. It's a high point trophy unit here in Colorado. It's taken, as a non-resident, it's 22 plus years to draw. As a resident, it's well into the teens. So it's almost to the point these are once in a lifetime tags. As clientele started growing there and talking to more guys, the guys that are applying the draw are often applying in many states. I'm from Utah. I'm a Utah boy. Utah is my home state. I have a lot of connections in Utah. I'm very familiar with the mountains there. So as I was meeting guys that were, drawing hunts here in Colorado and developing a relationship with them, a lot of them had points in Utah. So it was an easy transition to kind of expand the business into Utah a little bit. I live right on the Utah-Colorado border, so I got a couple great Colorado units right to the east of me and a couple great Utah units right to the west of me. I'm very, centrally located to be able to spend a lot of time in all them units and kind of help guys with, a couple different options depending where they're at in the point system.
Awesome. And we've talked about that. It seems like can you transition right into my next question for you? A lot of people, and I'm one of them, and the learning curve for me has been steep. I grew up in Alaska and I live in Idaho now. There are no points. Alaska's straight lottery, Idaho's straight lottery, so that kind of stuff is easy. The point system, can you kind of explain how that works? Point creep, what is that, and what's the concern moving forward? It seems like it's getting harder and harder for guys to draw tags every year. Kind of, how does that work a little bit? Can you kind of explain that?
Yep. So a lot of your Western states have, basically an application. The units are what they call limited entry, meaning there's a limited amount of tags. With that, they have to do a draw to make it fair. Every state's kind of got their own system. Like Colorado is, the guys with the highest points are the winners. With that, you mentioned point creep a little bit. What happens? Like, I'll use Unit 61 here for example. Total throughout the season, it may have 150 tags that's eligible in the draw, but you may have 300 guys applying for them. So, at 22 points, in theory, it's taking 2 years to get through the guys in 1 point bracket. The majority of the guys I'm hunting now who are anywhere between 22 and 30 years of applying, when they actually started the process, it was at 10 and 12 points. It, had the majority of these guys actually known how serious it was and how long it was actually going to take, they probably would not be playing the point game today. It's unfortunate, unless you're got in this early in life, many of the guys were hunting and, they're 60 and 70 years old by the time they're pulling these tags. In fact, it's getting to the point now that, that the state's looking at doing some restructuring because, as a non-resident to start out as a 14-year-old kid, you're almost never going to draw. They've literally become once in a lifetime tags and almost non-achievable in a lifetime. So you see the states making some different changes. They're going to go to kind of a hybrid system to give some people, some hope along the way. Utah's always been kind of a hybrid system. Half the tags go to the guys with the most points, half the tags go anywhere randomly. So if you've been putting in for 10 years, your name's in the hat 10 times. If you've been putting in for 5 years, your name's in the hat 5 times. So it gives you some hope along the way, but it's not necessarily, a guaranteed process till you're getting up in the 25, 30 points. So it is a lengthy process, but at the end of the day, it's, I hear a lot of guys talk, one idea or another, or complain that, it's getting out of hand, but I would hate to be in the state's shoes. At the end of the day, we got way more people that want to go on a quality elk hunt than there is quality elk hunting to go around. It has to be limited. Either we give out more tags and we make them more eligible and there's no big elk to hunt, or, we have to play along. I really don't think there's an answer that's good for everyone. As a whole, I think the state does a good job of catering to as many demographics of people as they possibly can. There is no perfect answer.
Yeah. Do you ever see them drawing a line in the sand and saying, okay, after this year, we're going to get everybody that has this many points caught up, and some of these higher end units are going to go to a lottery and just stop it and just stop the points? There's 150 tags for Unit 61. It's a lottery draw. Knock yourself out. Everybody can put in.
I mean, there's some talk, some different things, for 2028. Colorado has some changes proposed. It would be so unfair to the guys that have been in this 20 years to do something like that. I don't know, I don't know the legalities of that. I've heard talk of, I mean, it's maybe not even possible to do, but I definitely know that they're behind the scenes are playing with all their options, and I know if the state had their way, I think they would go to a draw across the board. But at the end of the day, that really doesn't get the public support. Your average hunter wants to go hunting every year. They love, I mean, because there is over-the-counter opportunities. Colorado has a bunch of units that are restricted and in the points, but the majority of the state is just over-the-counter tags. You can go to Walmart or the local, sporting goods store, get a tag and head to the woods. It's not nearly the quality of hunting. It's not the success levels, but I mean, it's still there. It's, you've got opportunity, you've got, it's family and friends and getting together and experience, and you can do that every single year. And, that there's a huge demographic of people that's important to, they would go do that for 20 years and never harvest anything. And that means a lot to them, so that's, it's hard to totally do away with that.
Yeah, and it seems like Colorado's always in the news for this because they have the highest population of elk, right? And so we hunted in down in Levada last year for antelope. Jay and I did, and Troy, and we were seeing elk right when we left the airport all along the way driving down there. And I've never seen like elk like that just on the side of the road, even here in Idaho. Driving around, but it was pretty neat. But no, I appreciate the insight in on that. It's something that we have to talk with clients a lot about when they call. The first thing they say is, I want to hunt elk in Colorado. It's like, okay, do you have any points and how many do you got? Or how much do you want to pay for a landowner voucher or for a tag or something like that? And that's the other thing. But you are getting ready for buffalo season now. And I know that is something that you are one of the top, if not the top, like Henry Mountain's Buffalo Guide. Can you walk us through that? I see the Facebook, or not Facebook, I see the YouTube videos, the pictures all the time. And if folks are lucky enough to draw, I assume, or buy a governor's tag or get one of these Henry Mountain's Buffalo tags, you're like the premier guy that they seem to go with. Can you walk us through that process? What goes into one of those hunts? Because that just seems epic to me. That seems like the ultimate horseback back western buffalo, if you can get a tag.
That is probably amongst one of the funner hunts we do. I take a little bit of different approach to that. I'm a big horse and mule guy. Anything I can do off horse and mule back and get away from the crowds, that's kind of my style. So that's kind of a niche we've got into on some of them buffalo hunts. It's, it doesn't have to be done on horseback, but a lot of the guys that are drawing these tags is the same generation that grew up watching John Wayne and the Lone Ranger and, dreaming of cowboys in the Old West. So to, kind of put that twist on these hunts, I've got some old range style teepees like you see the cowboys in Lonesome Dove wearing, and we go ride the back country and do Dutch oven cooking, and just kind of put a little bit different experience on, what's already a very amazing hunt. Utah's fortunate enough, it's got two herds of free range buffalo that are, truly free ranging herds, but it is a once in a lifetime tag. It's somewhere in the ballpark of 30 years to draw. It is a hybrid system. Like, I got a kid I'm getting ready to take this weekend. He drew in 2 years of applying.
Wow.
That there's hope, it's, it can happen along the way, but it's, again, a guy's got to be committed to, to going on one of them hunts. There is some tags and stuff available. There's some auction tags and stuff that become available every year, but there's only a handful of them. That there's obviously some expense and stuff that's included with them tags, but it's the only other option. But if you're truly chasing the North American 29 and looking to do it correctly, there's not a lot of options out there.
No, there's not. Yeah.
I really think buffalo at the end of the day is tougher than, getting your sheep and stuff like that. I mean, a sheep tag's not easy to draw anywhere, but there's many, many states that have, obviously free range sheep options as well as going down into Mexico and stuff. So, there's a lot of reservation hunts and stuff like that, but true free range herds, it's pretty limited. Arizona's got a little bit, you got a little bit up by Yellowstone, and, I believe Alaska has an option, but outside of
Sure.
that, you're pretty limited. So it's a neat experience. It's
Yeah.
definitely a fun one. It's remote country. We get back in there about as far as we can. It takes eight or 10 mules to put on a hunt. And we go 6-7 days, and it's some neat country. We have a lot of
Yeah.
fun on that.
I can't even imagine how much meat do you pull off one of those things when you put them on those mules? Do you bone it out when you take it out? Do you try to get it off the bone? Do you?
It kind of depends where we're at and how far from the truck. Anytime I can leave something in quarters, it's much better for the butcher process. It's much better for, a client understanding. When we debone something, it's, you lose a little bit of
Yeah.
idea of exactly what it is, but some of that it's too far in. We're pulling 400 to 600 pounds of meat off a buffalo, another 150 pounds of hide and head we're bringing out. So it's, it pretty much takes 3 mules to get them out.
Ready to chase your next big adventure? Shoshone Adventure Consulting is your trusted partner in global hunting and fishing travel. With over 40 years of experience, they connect you to world-class outfitters and unforgettable expeditions without the stress, hidden fees, or guesswork. From Alaskan moose to African safaris, they'll get you there right. Book your next adventure at ShoshoneAdventures.com, where legends begin.
I can load 2 up heavy if we're not in too bad a country, but for the most part, it's a 3 critter pack out just to get them out.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Do you get a fair number of archery hunters on that, or mostly rifle guys, or?
It's a combination of both. It's a little bit more rifle, but like this hunt we're going to do this weekend, I have a father and son. They actually got lucky. The dad drew after 28 years. The son originally didn't draw. Somebody turned their tag in this summer, and the son, with 2 points, he's going. Mere hundreds of people have applied, and I think there's 5 tags, and the odds of a father and son drawing that on the same year is about like winning the lottery. Yeah, so they're pretty stoked.
Good for them. Good for them. I know, coming from Alaska, the buffalo herds up there, it's all lottery system, and I've known people, and I've gone on hunts with them that literally put in for 35 years and finally drew, and then I've met people that put in with their wives or a son the first time, they both draw. Just because it's just lottery. But no, that's awesome. And one of the things, if you check out JT's like YouTube channel and the videos, the buffalo videos are awesome. But what captured my attention about JT and how we first hooked up, JT is one of the hardest working cat guys in the business for mountain lion. JT, walk us through your experience hunting the cats. It is like nothing you could ever imagine. Our experience was fun. It was hard. I mean, we went twice. The snow was so deep the first time. It's a funny story. When I got my cat with JT, I went down. There's a blog article on our website about it. You can read about it. JT, what is your background in that? How did you get into the cats? How many cat hunts have you done? And I want to take a little bit of a deep dive into the mountain lion thing because it is a fascinating bucket list hunt. We've sent a bunch of clients to you. Everybody walks away happy because of how hard you work. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yep. Running with hounds is kind of my passion. It would be, I would have to say it's probably one of the more favorable hunts I've done. I believe my wife figured it up this year, and I've now done over 200 successful cat hunts. I mean, heaven forbid, I've done some unsuccessful ones along the way. That's kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of it's just so unpredictable. More than any other hunt we do, there's so many uncontrollable factors in cat hunting, and some of it can be hard to explain. It's not just man versus beast; it's man versus dog and beast, and it's just got a little bit different dynamic to it. A little bit of change in the weather can make a huge, the change in the effect of the hunt. What temperatures are doing, what barometric pressures are doing. All of a sudden we hit a low pressure front and cat activity comes to a screeching halt. You can drive around staring at the ground and, the cover 500 miles of mountain and nothing's moving, and your client's thinking that, all the cats are shot out, there's nothing left. And, I can't buy a cat track if I wanted to save my life. And, the next week, the weather changes a little bit, the barometric pressure goes up, and I can't get clients through the airport fast enough because I got a cat track on every road we go down. Yeah. It's just so, and it's, trying to explain that to a client, it just, it almost sounds like you're sitting there making excuses for not getting the job done, but it's more, it's way more up and down. I mean, you can have a good elk hunt and a good, a good deer hunt. They can kind of go one way, but cat hunting, man, it is more up and down than any other hunt, and so many uncontrollable factors. It can be, I'm in this for the challenge. I love hunting. The kill at the end of the day is obviously the icing on the cake, but the driving passion behind me is learning animals, chasing animals, getting the experience and helping guys achieve their dreams. But, I fell in love with cat hunting at, I'm not going to say a young age. I grew up farming and ranching, but probably by the time I was 18, I had a scoutmaster there in Utah that kind of introduced it to me. And, I just kind of hit the ground running with it. I loved it. I was actually very anti-killing cats for a long time. I think they're one of the neatest animals on the mountain. I quickly learned the only way I could go cat hunting every day was to get someone to pay me to do it. So, that kind of led into guiding. I started guiding cat hunts, clear back in Nevada. It's probably been 16, 17 years ago now. I wasn't doing it full time, but I was doing a little bit, helping some friends out there that were guiding other hunts and kind of getting my feet wet with it. I'm a huge believer in, in conservation. A lot of, outfitters and lion hunters get a bad rap of killing everything that crosses the woods, and I've never wanted that to be my business model. I cover a large area, probably a lot larger than what a lot of people realize. I hunt stuff as far as 4 hours away from my house. I mean, the area we killed your cat,
Yeah.
I mean, we were pushing 3 hours away from home. I'll never overhunt an area. I try, I'm not saying that females never get harvested, because I think there's a time and a place for everything, but I never over harvest. I'll move to a new area. I'll cover a lot of country, looking for a better cat to avoid killing a cat I want. With that, it's, that makes some logistical nightmares on my end. I wear out trucks fast. I burn through a lot of fuel, but it's something I've been passionate about. I haven't, what's popular in this day and age is kind of doing on-call hunts with perfect conditions, bringing guys out, and you get a lot of really quick hunts,
Yeah.
and that's good. But, I've also wanted to make sure I was doing my part to teach guys what real cat hunting is. Like we don't get to pick our elk hunts based on conditions. We don't get to pick our deer hunts based on conditions. We kind of got to take them. So, I've done a lot of cat hunting. December through March, we kind of do a cat hunt a week. No matter what conditions fly, we spend a lot of time training dogs, learning a lot of country. Getting pretty good success at catching no matter what the conditions are. And really, it was important to me to educate guys. I wanted them to just not kill a cat, but I wanted them to learn a little bit about, hound hunting and all the logistics that went into it, because it's truly probably one of the more complicated hunts out there. And the guys that get cat hunting figured out seem to really excel at hunting all species. It puts us in the woods. We're seeing what the animals are doing, in multiple different seasons. It gets you in tune with a lot of other things that are going on in the mountain and takes you to some places you would probably never go if you didn't have to go fetch your dogs back. So it's,
it's unbelievable. And funny story. So when JT and I first met, we were just kind of getting to know each other. Now we, kick back just like old buddies. But the first morning we went out, horrible weather conditions. It was snowing to beat. I mean, it was just ominous start. And we're sitting in the truck. It's me, JT, one of his assistant guides or helpers, and David, our camera operator, was with us. And it was real quiet in the truck because it was snowing. I don't know if you remember this or not. And we're driving along. We hadn't gone very far at all. And I talk a lot, and I'm just a talker. And I decided to start the conversation. And the first thing I think of is, we're trying to cut a track on this road, and it's just the weather's horrible. And I was like, well, do you ever just see a cat run out in front of the truck when you're looking for tracks? And Jay turned around to Jewel, the gal behind us, his helper, and was like, 10 minutes, new record. And I'm like, do you guys have a bet for how long it's going to take somebody to ask that stupid question? And you're like, yep. And I broke the record. I was like, it only took 10 minutes before I asked. And that kind of broke the ice a little bit. And that was a hard trip. And then, like, you got to read the blog article, but when we finally shot the lion that we shot, it was just a comedy of errors. It was so fun. And we found the track like clockwork. And here we are getting ready to go on this long trip down this canyon where the dogs had this cat in a tree, and here comes a game warden. And it's like, God, what else could happen? super nice guy. And he actually, I called the article I wrote on our website a very legal lion, because literally the game warden, who JT knew, was like, well, I want to come along and watch. All right, here, you can film it. So literally I shot my cat while the game warden was filming us, and I used his rifle. I mean, it was the most legal hunt I've ever been on. It's like it couldn't, I mean, it was a hell of a story, but yeah.
I can't. What led us to using his rifle? I can't remember. He was
I
going to use a
had my
muzzleloader.
muzzle loader, and we didn't think we were going to get close enough just because of there was
We
like
didn't want
one
to show.
tree, and the cat would like, we wouldn't have been able to get very close. It wasn't in timber. And the game warden was like, well, here, use my rifle. No problem. Why not? It's like, what else can happen on this trip? And man, it was perfect. It was awesome. But that was a bucket list for me, man. Something I'll never forget. And I'm just waiting on that call from the taxidermist to pick up my cat, and I got my spot picked out. I'm not looking forward to paying for the work, but anyway, it's almost done. I got my spot picked out, and I can't wait to show it to you when it's done. But yeah, you guys got to check out the YouTube videos JT's got on the cat hunts. It is unbelievable, some of the footage this guy's get. Closest call you've ever had with the cat, with a client, charge, most memorable, closest call you've ever had with the cat.
Um, I, you know, as far as danger, I'm not going to say a lot. They're kind of in fear, and they're not a super. I'm not going to say they're in fear, but they're uncertain enough of the situation that they're not aggressive. You know, compared to going to Africa and hunting a leopard or something like that, a lion is a little bit less dangerous of a situation. I can't say, you know, once early in my career, I had one ledged up, and I was trying to get some dogs back, and it jumped off the ledge and used my back as a springboard and kind of took off, pushed me down, you know, pushed my face into the snow, scared the bejesus out of me.
I
But
bet.
you know, was his intent actually to hurt me? No. It, I've never, you know, I've been that way a little bit more with bears in caves and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, the cat hunting part of cat hunting is relatively safe. Same with the dogs. I've never, you know, I've had dogs minorly injured. You know, that's a huge question. How often do you lose dogs to this?
Yeah.
Lost a lot of dogs over the years, but it's never from the cat. It's from the tree, or it's from the cliff, or you know, a situation involved in the race. Never the actual animal themselves. But I mean, guys, some of my best memories, and I probably shouldn't be telling these stories, but to me, some of my best memories all coming down to misses. You know, I'm in the habit now. You know, I got a good friend of mine. He'd probably kill me if I was telling this story, but he, yeah, I think we went through like 8 arrows and 6 bullets, and I remember watching this guy bear hugging the tree to climb up the tree to start fetching arrows back.
Oh my gosh.
You know, we're 2 miles away from the truck, and we got
You're out of
we're out
ammo.
of ammo. Yeah, you know, he brought his bow, and we lost all of his arrows, and you know, I had my gun, and that, you know, a lot of times we're shooting at a steep angle. You know, it's one of the things I preach in my cat hunters practice, especially if you're a pistol guy or a bow guy. You know, take a minute and practice that angle, because it will throw you off. We was in one of those situations. This cat was up a big old tree. All we could get to the base of it, and we're shooting like a 75-degree angle. Yeah, not that far of a distance, but it's like, you know, we couldn't hit that thing to save our life. And I got a video of him, and it's a big ponderosa tree, and we got several arrows in this, and that's our only option. I'm pushing him up the tree, and he's bear hugging himself around this and shimmying his way up the tree, and we're just over there laughing. And sure enough, he gets up there and he gets a couple arrows out. He ends up getting 2 of his arrows out of the tree. I'm like, all right, buddy, like, you know.
Now I know why you kept asking me before I shot mine, do we need to get closer? I'm like, no, I can hit it from here. I'm telling you. It's like, are you sure we can get closer? I was like, I've got this game warden's rifle. It's like this tricked out 223 with a nice scope. I'm like, I can do this, JT. Just let me shoot the cat. And you're like, all right. Now I get it. Goodness gracious.
Yep. I mean, a lot of, you know, the guys are terrified going into trees. So many of them, you know, I'm very much used to it. You know, like I explained, I don't feel it's a dangerous situation, but when it's your first time, it's not. You know, the guys are nervous. You know, it's, right down to some guys shaking in their boots. I can't tell you the amount of times I've come walking into trees and I hear that little noise and they're behind me and they're clicking their safety and it's like, hey,
Whoa, yeah. No,
yes, sir.
yeah. All right. So did the guy ever get the cat?
He did. So we got 2 arrows out of the tree, and lo and behold, at first shot, he misses again right underneath him.
Oh.
I'm like, buddy, like we that we have no other options. I'm hiking around the hill trying to find another spot where we can get a little more level to shoot this cat. Finally, on his last arrow, he did make he made a shot. It was a lethal shot, and we went home with the cat that day. But
holy smokes.
I was starting to wonder. I'm like, we're
went home with a pocket full of memories and a hell of a story. Yep.
Yeah, lots like that. It's such a dream hunt to guys. It's neat to be a part of that and see guys, make that happen. There's nothing funner to me when it's a guy who's actually studied. It's not just about killing a cat. They're coming because they understand dogs, or they've learned about dogs, or they grew up reading, the stories of the lion hunter from the West. I mean, traditionally, especially if you go back before, modern technology, I can't imagine being a cat hunter 50 to 100 years ago. No way to track your dogs.
Yeah.
Minimal equipment, old school 4-wheel drive trucks. It was truly an art to do this sport 50 to 100 years ago. So, the guys that founded lion hunting, they had to be some of the toughest men on the planet. Today, we've got GPS technology and snowmobiles and side-by-sides with tracks. And, it's still one of the more complicated hunts out there, but it is, probably more than any hunt, technology has changed cat hunting greatly.
Oh, yeah. And if anybody's got it dialed in, it is you. And shifting gears just a little bit, you are dialed in south of the border now. You have transitioned to Sonora doing trophy mule deer hunts, coos deer hunts, which is a whole nother world as you're learning. And again, JT's work ethic, I'll let you tell this, I guess, but the guy has worked so hard to get this going. He's now flagged by the DEA coming and going and the EPA because he comes and goes from Mexico so much to make sure this operation is going like he wants it. What are you doing down in Mexico? I'm headed down there with Jay in January. I cannot wait. Tell me a little about the operation, the ranches. What was your intention, and what do you got going on down there, man?
It's been a fun adventure. It was always kind of my dream to do something down there. As things progressed here and got really busy, it was just, I got pretty caught up with work. I'll be honest with you, it was actually some of my employees that first kind of gave me the nudge in the door down there, and so many things just fell in place. It kind of seemed like it all fit too well to walk away from it. We were pretty well established here. I was doing a bunch. For me personally, 6 months out of the year, it was all cat hunting. I eat, sleep, and breathe cat hunting. Elk season, to make it work, I'm kind of an outfitter elk season. I don't guide a lot of the elk hunts anymore. To do my job as an outfitter, I can't be the boss and an employee. I have, kind of what makes the circle go around is I have a great group of guys. They are, as dedicated to hunting as I am. That they eat, sleep, and breathe elk hunting. They struggle in the winter. They all have, summer construction type jobs. They live their life so they can guide hunts, but winter was a hard time for them. Cat hunting is kind of a unique, special hunt. It's not really able to be mass produced. So,
yeah,
there's not a lot of options for them guys at this point in time. And they're just like, well, like we want to go to Mexico. We want to go to Mexico. So I'm like, let's, I'll dabble around, and all in a short period. I had a friend from down in Texas that I do some business with and comes up here and does some hunting with me. He's just like, hey, I've got some, some clients that have had this great, that they've had some ranches leased down there from some guys doing, kind of doing a private thing, not really commercially outfitting. He says they're looking to get out of the deal. They're done with Mexico. They're going to go hunt Africa for a few years. And these guys are really looking for someone to take over these ranches. So I flew down and, met the guys and, spent some time on the ranches and looked at logistics of it. Just, the kind of slowly built things from there. If you know me well, I have the attitude, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right, Mexico included. It's been a huge learning curve. There's a lot of culture differences. There's a lot of, hunting's not as, I'm not going to say it's not a part of their culture like it is to ours, but it's more a part of their culture from a a business standpoint than it is a fun standpoint, so to speak. But it's been good. We've got some ranches. I could quickly see some, the Mexican people have been great to work with. It's very hospitable. We're way down there south. It's safe. We fly into Hermosillo. They pick us up from the airport. We're escorted to the ranches. I mean, everywhere we go, the people they're so grateful for that we're there. The money means the world to them. The work means the world to them. It's just been neat. As far as the ranches, it takes it takes a ton of management. Everyone has this envision that they're going to go to Mexico and come back home with the 200-inch deer, and it's not true. There's a little smoke and mirrors in that, just like there is in hunting everywhere. It's not great mule deer country at the end of the day. It's the desert. It doesn't hold large groups of animals. I can do hunts here in the state where I can show you 30, 40, 50 deer in a day. I ain't going to show you 50 deer in a week down in Mexico. But there's big deer. It has what they need to grow old. It has, some of the protein in the nutrition to really produce some antlers on the right year. It has some of the genetics for it. It's got all the foundations, but it's a little bit different type hunting. It's slower paced. A client needs to be well versed on what he's getting into, because it's not what a lot of people expect. A lot of people think, well, if there's big deer, there's got to be a lot of deer. No, that's not the case. We may see a dozen deer in a week, but one or two of them is probably going to be one you want to go home with.
Whether you're deep in the backcountry or posted up in a duck blind, the gear you wear can make or break the hunt. That's why we trust Cordia Hunting Apparel. Built for comfort, built for the elements, built to perform. From base layers to bomb-proof outerwear, Cordia keeps you ready for anything. And right now, Shoshone Hunt Adventures listeners get 20% off site-wide with promo code Shoshone20 at huntcordia.com.
The ranches were in good shape, but not, the people are limited on what they can do. We went in, we've improved some of the water systems. I'm a big believer in feeding down there. We run a year-round feed program. We work some deals out with a citrus factory and a local feed store. One of the guides down there kind of gave him a regular job of going to the ranches and running trail cameras and just kind of managing things and seeing if we couldn't step the age class on some of these ranches up a little bit. And we're not to where we want to be, but I think we're headed in a really good direction. It's been a learning curve. I've looked at a lot of ranches. I think my first year being down there, I made 15 different trips back and forth. I went and looked at several ranches that just didn't quite seem like they were a good fit. Sonora is a huge place, but if you get to looking at it demographically, there's different sections of it that are far better than others. Where there's rainfall, the vegetation is a bit different. Not all of Sonora is created equal. So I kind of have an area that I want to be in, and I want the logistics, but it's a little bit of piecing things together. We've been fortunate kind of along one main corridor. There's been a few different ranches open up and kind of getting, it's not all one ranch, but it'll be 2 or 3 or 4 ranches that touch each other that make a large area. Yeah. And, to get some of that stuff tied up, we have a pretty good area now that, I think we can manage deer. It's a large enough area where we can keep deer on our place, and as long as they have their basic needs, we can pass on deer this year and still have a chance of hunting them next year. But without, you got to get to a certain amount of area to make that happen. A lot of these operations run around on smaller ranches and it's not continuous enough. I mean, you might as well shoot a 4-year-old deer this year, because if you don't, your neighbor's going to shoot him next week type of deal. So
a couple of the things that we hear a lot from clients about, JT, just touch on this real quick. Here's what's important to clients. The first thing we get questions about, other than success rates and how big they are, just like any other hunt, is safety. And I try to tell clients, it's like, when you think about the tens of thousands of people that go to Mexico on vacation every year, or they go to Africa every year and everything's fine, the safety is the first thing that people say that they're concerned about. Can you touch on that a little bit? Have you ever ran into a problem? What it looks like? What are the mechanics? I show up at the airport in Hermosillo, ensure my safety. What is going to happen? I'm like, what are we doing?
That myself or one of my American representatives that are down there help me. So I go down there with a crew of 3 or 4 of my boys, that kind of help with all the logistics of everything and guiding the hunts. To do business down there, you do have to have a Sonoran partner. So we're partnered with, an outfitting business down there. Great guys, San Juan Desert Outfitters. That they've been at it for a while. They've, not so much on the commercial end of things, but they've managed ranches that they were just kind of doing for some some corporate type groups and stuff like that. And that's them days have passed by, and we've kind of joined up together. And obviously my responsibility is bringing hunters from the States and really ensuring their safety, so to speak. That's that's the number one question I get asked as an outfitter as well. So we meet you at the airport. You'll have myself, as well as we will have a business truck that's it's a licensed Sonora truck. It's got symbolisms for the ranch showing that we are part of the hunting community, and they escort and drive us. So I'm there with you, they drive. It's a very safe deal. When you start putting into perspective how big Sonora is, I mean, is there danger places? Yes. If you took one member of the cartel and started putting them on every ranch, there's not enough members to cover a quarter of the ranches in the state.
Yeah.
It's no, it's different. Yes, it's a third world country, but it's not like we live in a perfect country either. I'm here in Colorado. We got gangs in Denver, but I've never seen one over here on the Western Slope. You know what I mean? It's much the same down there. I mean, we're 3 to 3.5 hours in from the border. There's no reason for there to be trouble where we're at. It's ranching communities. It's people. The hunters are bringing life-changing.
They want your business. They want you there. It benefits them for you to be there. They don't want anything to happen to you, because that'd be bad for business. Can you imagine if something happened to a couple of hunters and then all of a sudden no one went? I mean, it'd be horrible. Yeah, I mean,
Yep. I mean, there's definitely places I think you don't want to be, but I can point out a few places in Denver you don't want to be either. Much I wouldn't, I would never look at any of the ranches that were within an hour of the border. That's where the trouble's at. 3 hours in, there's no reason for there to be any trouble. It's huge. I mean, I can't even begin to describe to you. It's desert country as far as you can see, ranches after ranches after ranches. There's dirt roads you can go 60, 80 miles down. It's some of the different sheep ranches and stuff we've looked at. It's I've never been in country so remote. I mean, I had to go to Africa, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had this envision of Africa being more remote than Mexico. No, not even close. Like, I'm not saying there's not, that's a part of Africa. I don't have a good hold on all of Africa, but it was like, this ain't got nothing on Mexico. Like, I've been places in Mexico where, man, it would be days walking back to the, if you broke down, it would be a long walk back home.
Be a long walk back. The other thing that we that I think sets your operation apart, and you hit on this just a little bit, there's an American there. There's somebody that speaks English in the different camps, in the different ranch houses. That has been a frustration we've heard from people in the past, is like, well, when I got there for 6 days, it was sign language kind of, and trying to figure that out with folks, which I get. That's not the case with you, right? You've got an American there, you're there, one of your guys is there, something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, we have an American representative at every camp. As far as the guiding, we kind of let the boys down there do their job. I mean, I'll be honest, they're better at it than us.
Yeah.
Do we have things to bring to the table, like as far as glassing and stuff like that? Yes, combining some American Western styles, but they're, a lot of what we're doing down there is high rack hunting, and them boys have it down. I mean, they are, they're, I think as a culture, their cognitive abilities are a little bit more advanced than ours. They're, they have high reflex. Their ability to spot and locate animals is, I mean, I'll be honest, it's superior. I've watched, my top hunting guides kind of get schooled in the high racking game. I mean, obviously we don't have the experience out of as them, but still some of it, it's, the cult, they're proud in it. They're very good at it. You're truly better under a Sonoran guide than you are an American guide down there, because that's their way of hunting. That's what they've done for a long time. They're very dialed in on it. We're down there, that we almost work more as escorts. I mean, we are part of the guiding, but I value heavy what my partners have to say down there. They know the country, they spot deer, they're good at it. So, but
it's just the comfort of having an English speaking person, though. I mean, it's got to be at least comforting that. Yeah.
100%. The guys we work with down there, they don't speak fluent English, but they speak some. You can cover the basics, but they're probably not going to laugh at your jokes, and they're not going to care about your hunting stories from Alaska, so to speak. That's going to get,
Right.
that's more dialect than they're probably ready for. So there is a bit of a language barrier there. So it's kind of a needed relationship. They need us and we kind of need them. I can't imagine going to Mexico and trying to find ranches without having somebody tied into the Mexico ranching
Oh,
community.
yeah. Yeah.
Where would you even begin? Just start driving around door to door. Most of the ranchers don't even live on the ranch. It would be a total nightmare. So it's really it's a partnership we both need for success.
Yep. When are you headed back down there again? You've got any trips planned?
Um, I,
Probably
I,
a
I just
couple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just made a surprise trip down there, about a week ago, took down some extra trail cameras and we just kind of checking, making sure everything was going according to plan and feeders and stuff were full. My schedule is busy, so I won't go. I'll make a trip down in October and that'll kind of be it for me in the fall. But I've made a bunch of trips this spring. We looked at some new
Yeah.
ranches, some different sheep opportunities, a ranch we liked that we picked up, a couple ranches that I wasn't that interested in. We put a new irrigation system in on one of the ranches so we could put some food plots and stuff in. I wanted to do my part to go down there. One, just to kind of get a feel for everything, make sure I know it in and out, and two, just to show them that we're there to do long-term business. We're not looking to come in and overhunt your ranches and be in and out. I want to develop a relationship with the people to know, that to show them we're there to do good business. I think, a lot of times there could be some cultural differences there, and a lot of people go down there just for the commercial standpoint. They want to make all the money they can in a short amount of time and then disappear, and that's not what we're looking for. I kind of enjoy it. It's a good time of year. It's a good break for us. It's very good for the boys that work for me. It's something we're looking to do for a few years, so we've wanted to do it right, and with that we got to make sure we have good relationships. I'd be lying if I wasn't a little bit nervous the first time. I'd sent a bunch of money down there and leased some deer, got some tags and some ranches and stuff tied up. And man, my next flight down there, my fingers were crossed the whole way. I hope they're at the airport, because there is,
Yeah.
there has to be a lot of trust. There's,
Yeah.
any sort of legal contracts or anything like that there's really no, there's no way to enforce that. There's a huge amount of trust, but they are, they're good people. They're, we're culturally different, but they're very proud people. That their word is huge. It's huge to them. It's I feel very safe in doing business down there. It's been a great partnership.
Yeah.
Like I say, some of them are flying up here this week. I got to go to the airport tonight to pick up Francisco because he's coming up here to hunt. So, we're developing a friendship more than just strictly business. So
No, that's awesome. And I don't know when you're going back after October, but I know where you're going to be on January 5th.
yes,
At least
sir.
I hope with us. But man, that's awesome. The last thing I want to ask you about Mexico, and you've done such a good job giving a good overview of it. The third thing that a lot of people ask about is the food. Tell a little about the food that gets served. I never hear anything bad about it. That seems like a highlight, especially when the hunting's slow. If the food is good, just makes it all kind of better.
Yeah, so everything we do down there's professional cooks that are hired. The food is phenomenal. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, that they've got that down. Really, the the Sonoran people as a whole have hospitality down, from when we stay in motels to when we go to the ranches. It is very much dialed in. More, I've been in many American hunting camps, and I'll take the food in Mexico all day long. Not just the style of food, but what they put into it. The budget, different things like that. Obviously, the $500 in food in Mexico goes a lot further than $500 here. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. It's all, it's professional chefs. I'm not gonna say it's 5-star, but it's at least got to be 4-star dining. Um,
Yeah.
they're huge. I'm looking for guys that are more there to hunt than party. That could be a little bit in the culture, but it's just a good atmosphere, that they're very hospitable, that we pick guys up from the airport, we'll take them, last minute run to Walmart and stop by a few stores. We have all the basics covered, but if there's any special treats or something a guy wants while he's down there, we make that happen.
Is there a
Yeah.
Walmart in Hermosillo?
There is Walmart's, Sam's
So I,
Clubs.
I didn't. I had no idea. That would literally make a guy feel more comfortable when they're talking about safety. I was like, man, literally you're going by the Walmart on the way to the ranch. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
never mind. I mean, it's like regular everyday stuff.
it's weird because there's just, everything's in Spanish, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, they make Snickers candy bars. That's all in Spanish. I mean, everything we have here, you can get down there. It's just in a different box.
I had no idea. I've never heard anybody say that and had no idea. Huh.
Nope, a lot of the same food chains they have down there. I mean, not all of them. Obviously, there's some big differences, but it's good. Yeah, I mean, the food. I've been in a million different taco trucks since we've been down there. That's what, the boys, when they pick me up there, one of their points is every time is take me somewhere new to eat. And it's just, man,
Yeah.
we never go wrong.
Oh man, I can't. I'm getting excited just sitting here. We're going to be down there in January. It's part of our filming lineup. It's going to be great. It'll be an awesome YouTube video. I cannot wait. Oh goodness, you get me all excited, man. All right, I want to wrap it up, but we've talked about the the arrows in the tree and kind of the cat jumping off your back, which is unbelievable. Most memorable hunt that you can think of, like something that sticks out, like a huge elk, the biggest elk you've ever been in on, or just one of those hunts where it was just something that sets it apart from another hunt, maybe.
Oh man, that'd be tough. I've been on so many good ones through the years and so many good clients. Ah, yeah, I did a lion hunt a few years ago with the husband and wife out of New York. We that's probably just more from a physical standpoint and probably testing myself as a person and also just seeing the strength of the group of guys I had around me. But we literally, we started hiking. We caught a cat in a pretty nasty spot. The hike in, not terrible, but the hike out, something that, man, it would not hurt my feelings if I never had to do again. It had been a long week. We'd killed the husband a cat, put several days into it. His hike was nothing, it was no picnic, so to speak. We were probably going into like 10 days of having this couple here, doing a Tom only hunt, late nights, early mornings. I was running low on sleep. We get to this tree. I remember like the last 20 minutes of just pushing, running, jogging. The sun's going down, get there with less than 10 minutes to spare, get the cat killed, sub-freezing temperatures. We're high in the mountain. Like we started at like 6,000 feet in elevation and went up and over and killed this cat at like 9,000. So it sounds like back would be better because we were higher on the mountain, had to come downhill. But the way the canyon was, we go through, we had to climb a steep canyon side to get back out of where we were, and it was one of them. I mean, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, just exhausted. We made it back to the trucks at daylight the next day, and it was. I remember being so tired on that hunt, actually falling asleep walking. And I don't know that any point in my life that's ever happened. But like I remember, that the girl that actually killed it, and she was kind of, that we were all kind of in the same boat, but I was probably a little bit more run down than anyone else just from, all the logistics of the week. But I remember actually taking steps and my body just shutting down because it could no longer stay awake. I remember her, she'd actually grab, I always wear, if you know me, I'm always wearing a vest. I may not have a shirt on, but I'm always going to have a vest.
Yeah, get a vest on. Yep.
In fact, this is one of the, that you got me here behind the computer, but I remember several times just her having to grab and shake and keep me awake on that. It was, it was crazy what we had to do to get up out of that canyon. We ended up, the Skylar that works for me, he ended up having to go up country and tie some ropes, and it wasn't quite like rappelling, but it was steep enough that you almost couldn't get out of there, assisted. So that, obviously this isn't a story, as much a part of the hunt as after the hunt, but just being tested, that hunt is probably one that will always stand out in my mind because it had been, it just pushed me to the depths of, where I thought I couldn't go and back physically, mentally. That was an 11-day grind of almost no sleep, physical hiking, and just helped, a couple that had saved up for years to come on this hunt. It was, it was for I believe it was their 5th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
Huge deal to him. It was just, it sticks out in my mind. There's probably nothing in this story that actually makes it sound exciting to the people listening, but to me, that hunt is one I will never forget. But it just did more to me as it taught me that your mind is much more powerful than what we give it credit for. You can really put anything you set your mind to doing. And I just learned some good, valuable lessons about life and myself being pushed on that hunt that, I would never take that back. It was probably one of the more miserable hunts I've ever been on, but
Yeah.
that I wouldn't trade it for the world, so to speak.
No, I love it. And it doesn't surprise me that one of your most memorable hunts was a cat hunt because, man, if there's somebody that you just described it right there. I mean, no one works harder. No one works harder than this guy. We've got lucky clients that have hunted with JT. I'm lucky to have done that. And we've got clients booked with him this year. I cannot wait for this special elk hunt that we've got for a couple clients. I know that you're excited about that because they're big elk. That's going to be cool. Super excited about that, and we'll just kind of keep that as a surprise for everybody. That's going to make a really good video. And man, I can't thank you enough. And JT, not only thank you, please tell your bride and the family thank you for letting you sneak away for an hour or so and chat with me. I really appreciate it. I know you're so busy this time of year, and it's thank you for everybody for giving you a few minutes to chat with us. So I really do appreciate it. So closing comments, you got anything else, JT? I think we're good.
I mean, yeah, that kind of covers it. I'm looking forward to it. November will be here soon enough. I'll be excited. I'll keep sending you some photos and stuff. The boys are out working hard. Lots of good scouting footage coming in, and soon we'll have them trophy photos that everyone's looking for. I will keep you posted.
That's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to those grip and grins. I know there's a lot more to hunting than that, but that's a lot of antler right there. I think that these guys are going to be in for. And not only that, looking forward to seeing you again in person. I don't think I'll be there in November. I've got a softball tournament in the middle of that now, and going to Film for Jay in November on some whitetail hunts. But we'll see you in January in Sonora at any rate. And if anybody jumps on JT's YouTube channel, check it out. His website's got links to it. There is no one that works harder in the business than this guy. If you draw an elk tag in Western Colorado in one of these units and you finally spent that 25 years and you need an outfitter to take you, this is your guy right here. You will not go wrong with JT. And if you've ever wanted to go to Mexico for margaritas and big mule deer, if you want an American operator with English-speaking folks in camp, comfortable, safe. I'm so excited that you ventured into this because you're somebody everybody can trust, man. And I think that people are going to be real lucky to hunt with you down there. I really do.
Well, I appreciate that. We're really looking forward to it. We've got some good things this year. So January can't come soon enough.
No, I know I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait for all the happy clients and a happy me when I get down there. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. All right. I want to thank JT for joining us. Hey, tune in. I think this is our 14th or 15th episode that we've done. We're trying to drop about one a week. Next week, we're going to be talking Africa with Jay and Jonathan, recapping their South Africa, Namibia, and Zimbabwe fantastic trip that they just had. So, JT, thank you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you. A few more months to go.
Yes, sir. We'll be in touch soon.
Ready to chase your next big adventure? Shoshone Adventure Consulting is your trusted partner in global hunting and fishing travel. With over 40 years of experience, they connect you to world-class outfitters and unforgettable expeditions without the stress, hidden fees, or guesswork. From Alaskan moose to African safaris, they'll get you there right. Book your next adventure at ShoshoneAdventures.com, where legends begin.